Hello, and welcome to EuroTech, the weekly podcast where we break down Europe's top tech and investment news. I'm your co-host, Mark Candlish.
I'm Brian Welchley.
And I am Matilda Santos, and we are back as your hosts today.
Today, we're covering the biggest stories from November 16th to 22nd. From robotics breakthroughs in Switzerland to a major AI defense partnership in Finland, a regulatory shakeup in Brussels, stock market moves across Europe, and a bold new AI investment plan in the UK.
And for the second half of the episode, we'll go into a special 5-minute deep dive on General Intuition, the frontier AI lab using video games to train agents for both virtual and real-world tasks, and how it fits into Europe's emerging robotics and AI ecosystem.
Let's dive in.
We begin in Zurich, where robotics startup Flexion, founded by former NVIDIA researchers, raised $50 million to build an AI brain for humanoid robots. Flexion's platform aims to replace rigid, task-specific robot software with a general-purpose intelligence layer. It combines language reasoning, vision, motion planning, and full body control, enabling robots to interpret instructions, respond to changing environments, and operate with far less human supervision. Backers include major global investors, and the raise contributes to what has already been a record year for robotics investment worldwide. Flexion plans to expand into the US and accelerate development of robots for logistics, industry, and even emergency response.
Robotics is shifting from hardware-led innovation to software-led intelligence. Companies like Flexion are betting that the future of robotics is about adaptable and based on general-purpose models. So, whoever builds the operating system for autonomous robots could shape the next major computing platform.
Brian, before we move on, Flexion sounds a lot like General Intuition, the startup we covered a few weeks ago that also wants to build adaptable robot intelligence. Are Flexion and General Intuition essentially doing the same thing?
Great question. They sound similar, but there are key differences. General Intuition focuses heavily on simulation-first learning, using massive virtual environments to teach robots abstract reasoning and general understanding of the world. Their pitch is, if a robot can learn physics, affordances, and object behavior in simulation, it can transfer those skills to the real world with minimal fine-tuning. Flexion, on the other hand, is building the real-time control stack, the layer that interprets human language, fuses it with visual input, and then translates it into continuous whole-body movement. It's less about simulation, more about embodied intelligence in practice.
So General Intuition trains the mind, and Flexion wires the nerves and muscles?
Exactly. And both approaches are converging on the same long-term goal: robots that can understand intent and act safely and intelligently in open-ended environments. But they're attacking the problem from two different ends of the pipeline.
In Helsinki, defense and industrial AI startup NestAI emerged from stealth with a €100 million funding round and a major partnership with Nokia. NestAI focuses on physical AI, applying large language models and advanced autonomy to military vehicles, robotics, decision systems, and industrial applications. The partnership with Nokia gives the startup access to communications, edge computing, and defense-related infrastructure. The move comes as European governments increase spending on defense technology and seek homegrown capabilities. NestAI's chairman, Peter Sarlin, previously sold his last AI company for over $600 million, adding further weight to the project.
This story is part of a much bigger trend. Europe is waking up to the strategic importance of defense AI. After years of underinvestment, the region is now pushing for technological sovereignty in military systems, autonomy, and secure AI infrastructure. NestAI positions Finland and Europe to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers at a time of major geopolitical uncertainty.
In Brussels, the European Commission proposed a digital omnibus package that would delay and soften parts of the EU's new tech regulations. The most controversial change, Enforcement of several high-risk AI rules would be pushed back by up to 18 months, giving companies more time to comply. The plan would also ease some data privacy requirements, making it simpler for firms to train AI models on user data with fewer consent barriers, a response to complaints about excessive cookie pop-ups and compliance costs. EU officials argue the goal is to help Europe stay competitive by reducing regulatory friction. They claim the changes could save billions for businesses and consumers. But digital rights groups warn this is a major rollback of privacy protections, and some former regulators caution against dismantling the EU's carefully crafted rulebook.
This moment highlights Europe's core dilemma: how to balance innovation with protection. Europe has led globally on privacy and AI safety, but companies have warned that over-regulation could push talent and investment elsewhere. The debate now is whether the EU is recalibrating or retreating from its digital principles. The outcome will shape how AI companies operate in Europe for years to come.
In financial markets, Switzerland's SIX Group, operator of the Swiss and Spanish stock exchanges, is exploring the launch of a pan-European exchange for small and medium-sized companies. The goal is to create a unified platform that spans Zurich, Madrid, and London to help European scale-ups access public markets more easily. SIX is also pursuing smaller acquisitions to strengthen its data and post-trade services, but it is steering clear of large transformational deals. One major driver of caution is its setback from the collapse of French payments company Worldline. SIX owns about 10% of Worldline, whose share price has plunged dramatically after customer losses and profit warnings. This forced them to write down over $500 million Swiss francs and brace for a yearly loss. Despite the challenges, SIX sees opportunity in building a dedicated SME-focused market at a time when IPO activity across Europe remains subdued.
Because Europe faces a long-standing gap in how startups scale, many promising European companies go to the US to list because they lack deep, liquid local markets. A pan-European SME exchange, if executed well, could help keep more high-growth companies on the continent and strengthen Europe's capital markets competitiveness.
In France, Voodoo, known for its mobile games, acquired social app BeReal in a deal worth €500 million. BeReal became a cultural phenomenon with its once-a-day authentic photo concept and attracted tens of millions of Gen Z users. But the app struggled to monetize and faced slowing growth, prompting it to seek a buyer. Under Voodoo, BeReal's founders are stepping down, and a new CEO from Voodoo will lead the platform. Voodoo plans to accelerate user growth, introduce advertising, and attempt to scale BeReal toward 100 million users. The deal reflects both the challenges of competing in social media and the opportunities for established players to acquire strong communities that need a path to revenue.
This acquisition shows how Europe's startup exit environment is evolving. BeReal didn't achieve a blockbuster, independent exit, but it found a European buyer with the resources and growth engine to give it a second life. It also signals that European tech giants are becoming more aggressive in acquiring consumer platforms, something long dominated by the US and China.
We had a deep dive on bending spoons some weeks ago. If you are into consumer platforms and you didn't listen to it yet, I strongly suggest you do. And now to the UK, where the government announced a major push to accelerate AI innovation. The plan introduces new AI growth zones across the country, including a flagship hub in South Wales on the site of a former Ford engine plant. The zone is expected to create thousands of jobs in AI-related fields. Each zone will receive dedicated funding to help businesses adopt AI and train local talent. In total, the UK is committing over £130 million to AI research, including advances in healthcare and expanded cloud access for startups and academics. Tech companies such as Microsoft and major data center providers are already partnering with the initiative. The announcement fits into the UK's broader £55 billion R&D strategy aimed at establishing the country as a global tech and science leader.
The UK is sending a clear signal. It wants to be Europe's AI capital. By combining funding, infrastructure, talent development, and regulatory flexibility, The government is trying to create regional ecosystems that can rival established tech hubs. For founders and investors, this means more support, more incentives, and a clearer roadmap for scaling AI businesses domestically.
For this week's deep dive, we're returning to a company we mentioned earlier in connection with Flexion, General Intuition, a frontier AI research lab based in Geneva and New York that is using video games as a training ground for AI agents.
General Intuition spun out of the gaming platform Metal and raised an unusually large seed round, over $130 million, from top-tier investors. Its goal is to build spatially intelligent AI agents that understand how things move and interact in complex environments, first in games and eventually in the real world. Instead of training mainly on text, General Intuition learns from huge volumes of gameplay video and interactive sessions. Millions of players upload clips of intense moments, victories, defeats, surprising plays. Those clips form a massive dataset of cause and effect, strategy, and physical dynamics inside virtual worlds.
On top of that data, the company is building foundation models and world models that can predict how environments evolve, what actions are available, and what might happen next. The first commercial products, expected around 2026, are aimed at game studios, smarter NPCs and bots that adapt to the player, rather than follow scripts. Tools that let developers simulate and test dynamic scenarios in games. Longer term, the same kind of agent could drive drones, robots, or other autonomous systems, using game-like control schemes to navigate unfamiliar real-world environments.
From a strategy point of view, General Intuition is making three big bets. First, it believes games are the best lab for general intelligence. Games compress physics, incentives, social interactions, and problem-solving into rich, fast-moving environments where agents can learn quickly. If an AI can learn to operate across many different games and genres, it may develop an intuition for space, time, and strategy that transfers to other domains. Second, it is building on a unique data asset. Metal's platform generates billions of gameplay clips a year. Those clips are not random. They are the moments players chose to share, often edge cases, clutch plays, failures, and chaotic situations. That makes the data extremely valuable for training robust agents that don't break when something unexpected happens. Third, it is focusing on behavior, not content. General Intuition has been very explicit that it does not want to replace game developers or generate entire worlds as its main product. Instead, it wants to provide the intelligence that lives inside those worlds, the agents that move through them. That helps avoid some intellectual property landmines and makes the company a partner to studios, not a competitor.
A common question I get is, what is so special about General Intuition compared to other game platforms? It's a fair question.
My answer is that other platforms either 1. Don't own the data in a way that's easy to use for frontier AI training, or 2. Have noisy, low-signal video that's not tuned to decision-making under pressure. 3. They're not set up to mine and structure it for world model training, so investors see a real data moat, not just we have users who play games.
Nicely put. In terms of business model, the company is B2B first. In gaming, it wants to license its agents and tools to studios and publishers, potentially as engine plugins or SDKs. So instead of selling directly to players, it becomes part of the invisible infrastructure that powers game AI. Beyond gaming, it is also signaling interest in robotics, drones, and other physical systems where spatial reasoning is critical. Those paths would likely involve enterprise licensing, per-device fees, or usage-based pricing.
But there are real risks. Training video-based models at scale is extremely compute-intensive. The company will need to be very efficient and very clever to compete with giants who already control huge compute clusters. There is also an adoption risk. Game developers are rightly cautious about dropping a black box AI into their titles. They need to maintain game balance, narrative, and player experience. General Intuition will have to prove that its agents can be controlled and tuned, that they enhance fun rather than break it.
Stepping back, here's why General Intuition matters for Europe and for robotics companies like Flexion. If General Intuition succeeds, it will show that moving from words to worlds, from text-only learning to rich interactive environments, is a viable path to more general intelligence. That kind of agent could one day power 1. Non-player character, or NPC, in games. 2. Robots in factories. 3. Drones in search and rescue. Even complex simulation tools for finance, logistics, or urban planning. For Europe specifically, having a lab like this in Geneva is strategically important. It anchors high-end AI research on European soil with a public benefit mission and a strong link to gaming in creative industries. Combined with robotics efforts in places like Zurich, it forms part of a broader ecosystem. Simulation-trained minds on one side, physical control stacks on the other. In other words, if Flexion is building the nervous system and muscles for future robots, General Intuition is one of the labs trying to train their situational awareness and instincts.
That brings us to the end of this week's EuroTech. We covered major moves in robotics, defense AI, regulation, capital markets, consumer social, and national AI strategy, and took a deeper look at General Intuition's bet on learning from games to build general spatial intelligence.
If you enjoyed this mix of weekly headlines and deeper strategic analysis, make sure to subscribe and share the episode with a friend or colleague in tech or finance. Thank you for listening, and join us next week for more insights on the technologies, companies, and policies shaping Europe's digital future.
This podcast was produced by Asif Rajani and brought to you by EuroTech.vc, empowering Europe to lead the global tech race.